Well, let's do another update on our 3 big papaya trees, not the little ones growing all over or the ones out front. I'm going to do an update on these. Now, as you can see, the heat has taken a great toll on a lot of leaves. Got a lot of dead leaves here, and I'll slowly pan over. We've got a lot of dead leaves here, and this tree as well. A lot of dead leaves. Now, I know I usually tell everybody I take all the yellowing and brown leaves off, but this is more of a tree than a squash plant or a tomato plant or a basil or kale you're trying to save. This is a little different in my opinion, and I could be wrong. This is my opinion. We are leaving the leaves right now unless they're ready to drop. Because if you can see, the leaves are, even though they're brown, they are shading the trunk and they're shading the fruit. Dead or alive, or browning or not, they are still shading and protecting the fruit. As you can, visualize on the top here, the top of the plant is perfect. Look at all the new growth. Even though we've been running 100 degrees plus and all that, the new growth, because of the way I'm watering the plants, on all 3 of these trees. And I'm calling them trees. I know they're technically not trees, but they look like it. So just for now, I'm going to call them trees. On all 3 of these trees, the growth on the top is beautiful. Just beautiful. Look at that. All brand new green, and the top leaves are just gorgeous. So for now, I feel we're going to leave the brown leaves until the weather cools. I have no idea when that will be. And let the leaves shade the trunk of this tree and shade the fruit. The fruit has been great. As you can see, we still have more to harvest. And since I did my last few, whoa, see, now that one was ready to come off, and that's fine. And I will compost that when I'm ready. But we have been harvesting and harvesting fruit constantly, and there's new fruit that's forming as I speak to you. Look at that. As I tell you about it, there's new fruit. So we're getting more papaya than I even know what to do with. Actually, no. People ask me, do I dry it? I have not dried papaya. I'm not that big on dried fruit, and I don't know why. What I have done is slice it up and put it on a cookie sheet and then freeze it so it's a solid block, and then you can pack it in plastic bags and make smoothies out of it. You just take out as many little squares as you want. And the other thing is, I have been making Gary papaya pudding. So simple. Anybody can do it. It's just incredibly simple. He's crazy about it. So, and I can even show you exactly how I do it. It's just really, really simple. I'll tell you right now. What I do is I get a box of, just a box. I can make them from scratch, but let's do it this way. A box of your favorite vanilla pudding. And I would go with the bigger one that says 3 cups of milk. Now, if you're vegan, you can use coconut milk, but we're not. So I use regular milk, and I use whole milk. I never use low fat or non-fat. So instead of the 3 cups of milk, what I do is I will make the pudding like it says, and let's say we're using instant because it's summer right now. I prefer cooked, it tastes better, but let's say instant. So you take 1 cup, 1 to 1.5 cups. It depends on how thick you want it. And you mix that up with, let's say, 2 cups of papaya. I used a lot of papaya because Gary told me to get rid of it. But you can use as much papaya as you want. You can do this with any fruit. And then you just make your pudding like you would, but instead of putting in 3 cups, you put in 1 cup of milk. Like I said, you can go up to 1.5. Mix it up with a whisk. Then take your 1 to 2 cups of papaya. You can use the fruit of your choice. Put it in a blender with a cup of milk. Blend it up. Once it's blended up, mix it in with the pudding that you've already beat it together with your whisk, and stick it in the fridge. Oh my goodness. Now you can get fancy. You can ask if you are eating Cool Whip. You can add a little Cool Whip to make it more of a mousse instead of a pudding. We did not, but I know it would be good. And that's it. And like I said, if you got an abundance of peaches or strawberries or blueberries, you could do the same thing. But I've got instructions from Gary to get rid of the papaya in different ways, and that's what we're doing right now, and we're making papaya pudding, and he loves it. Do I eat perfect? Of course not. I don't promote perfect. Life is never going to be perfect, and if it was perfect, it'd be boring. Life isn't perfect, but I do eat good. So I eat my greens, as you have seen, my green drinks, and then I indulge in other stuff. And I think that's the whole thing. It's the spice of life. So I am a dessert freak, and I like making different things. So try that, but I wanted to do an update right now on the papayas because I did it, a few days ago. And yes, the heat has taken a toll on them, but with the compost bins I've got on the bottom, that really has been giving them enough water. Because keep in mind, that bin, and then I'm trying to slowly swing you because I don't want to make anybody dizzy. And these bins, even though I'm watering in the bins and in their pots, again, the roots have long left the pots, those pots and those bins are always going to be wet underneath. It may get dry on the top, but it's going to be wet underneath. So their roots will be under there, and there'll be all kind of microbes and earthworms and everything under all these compost bins. There's another one, I have that covered. And they're getting more than enough water. So even though it looks like it's dry and we're 100, 115, 117, it doesn't matter because they're pulling in the water from underneath those bins when it runs out, and they've always got water. Even though we don't see it, they've got water. And that's why all of these trees, their top growth is perfect. They're just sacrificing all their bottom. They're not feeding the bottom leaves. Normally I would trim them off, but I'm going to leave them. Like I said, I want them to shade the tree. If I see they're going to fall off on their own, that's fine. If I touch them and they fall off, that's fine, but I'm going to leave them. If this would have been winter, I would have taken them all off. I would have actually trimmed them up to the trunk. Let me see if I can get you in here. What I do, I hope I'm doing this right because it's very hard to see in this heat and bright light. I would trim it right there. I don't over trim anything. Like I try not to pull them off because sometimes they're holding the fruit. And if you pulled it off, you could knock off a fruit. Again, I hope I'm doing this right. Yeah, see, I don't want to, okay, if I touch it, it might fall. On its own, let it do it. But if you snap it, you could snap off a fruit. So I don't snap them off. I cut them and then let the pieces fall that's left on their own. Now for composting also with the papayas, I'm taking the dried yellowing leaves and the brown leaves that have fallen off. I'm sticking it in one of my containers, no holes on the bottom, to make my plant food, my compost tea, but I'm using the papaya leaves. And then as soon as it breaks down in a couple days, I'll just water the base of the tree. So no loss. Then I'll probably take the rotting leaves that have been in the compost bucket already, composting down, or breaking down to the tea, I should say, and I'll either put it around the base of the plants or I'll throw it in one of my compost bins. Hey, nothing goes to waste. Everything becomes soil. That's an update on the papayas. Everybody seems to love papayas again. I've talked about the seeds. Don't dry the seeds. If you go to the grocery store and you buy a beautiful papaya, take all those seeds, spread it in a container, even in a flower pot, water it, and you'll end up with a whole bunch of papayas growing, little baby plants. And I think it's so cool that people have contacted me that now they're using the fresh papaya seeds. They're getting them to grow in less than a week. And before they couldn't grow them. So with that, have a great day. And don't forget to eat what you grow, even if you make dessert out of it. Bye-bye, everybody. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. And I'm going through the questions as fast as I can. We've ended up with over 1,000. Bye-bye.